Living in a major city is supposed to be the path to success and opportunity, right? Well, a fascinating story from Bulgaria completely challenges that assumption, showing how moving away from urban life can transform both mental health and parenting.
That's such an interesting perspective, especially when most development metrics focus on urbanization as progress. What sparked this countercultural move?
You know, it started with this overwhelming sensory assault they experienced in Sofia. Constant traffic, sirens, the endless urban cacophony. Studies show that sustained exposure to urban noise can increase cortisol levels by up to 40%.
Hmm, and I imagine that stress must compound when you're raising young children. How did their 4-year-old twins handle city life?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. In Sofia, these kids were essentially living in what child development experts call a concrete cage. Their play was always structured, supervised, confined to designated spaces. Research shows urban children spend 90% less time in unstructured outdoor play compared to just 30 years ago.
Oh, wow, that's quite a stark statistic. What changes did they notice after moving to the countryside?
The transformation was remarkable. Within just weeks, these same kids who were used to structured urban play were now spending an average of 4 to 5 hours daily in nature-based exploration. They're discovering insects, finding wildflowers, playing in streams, essentially experiencing what psychologists call free-range childhood.
That makes me think about the growing body of research on nature deficit disorder. Did they notice any specific improvements in their children's development?
Absolutely fascinating changes. The parent reported that their children's attention and spans improved significantly, which aligns with studies showing that exposure to nature can reduce ADHD symptoms by up to 30%. But what's really interesting is how the parent's own mental health transformed.
That's such a crucial point, the interconnection between parent and child well-being. What specific changes did they observe?
Well, in Sofia, they described experiencing what psychologists call urban stress syndrome, this constant state of hypervigilance combined with social pressure. As a single parent, they felt this intense need to prove themselves, spending nearly 40% of their income on keeping up appearances.
That financial pressure alone must have been enormous. How did the economics change in the rural setting?
Here's what's fascinating. Their cost of living dropped by roughly 60%, but the quality of life metrics they described went through the roof. They found themselves having what researchers call high-quality interaction time with their children, unstructured, unstressed, fully present moments.
That's remarkable. Did they mention any challenges in adjusting to rural life?
You know, they were quite candid about the trade-offs. While they gained in terms of mental space and natural freedom, they had to adjust to having fewer modern conveniences. But here's what's interesting. Studies show that after 6 months in a rural setting, most urban transplants report a 45% reduction in anxiety levels.
So it sounds like this move affected every aspect of their life, from the practical day-to-day routines to deeper psychological well-being.
Exactly. And what's particularly fascinating is how these changes created what psychologists call a positive feedback loop in their family dynamics. As the parents' stress decreased, their patience increased. Research indicates that parents in natural settings display up to 20% more positive interactions with their children.
That's quite profound. The shift from surviving to thriving. What lessons do you think we can draw from their experience?
Well, the key takeaway isn't necessarily that everyone should move to the countryside. It's about recognizing when your environment isn't serving your family's well-being. Recent studies show that even adding 20 minutes of nature time daily can reduce stress hormones by 15%.
That's actually quite actionable, finding ways to incorporate more natural elements into our lives wherever we are.
And perhaps that's the most powerful message from their story, that sometimes the bravest thing we can do as parents is to step away from conventional wisdom and create our own definition of success. Whether that means a dramatic move to the countryside or just making small changes to prioritize well-being over social expectations.